This episode of Tea with Jules is proudly brought to you by The Home. You can shop any of the items you see in this episode at thehome.com.au. Fiona Falkiner, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's really nice.
You are, can I just say, beautiful in real life. I mean, I've seen, of course, photos and you on the TV, but in real life.
Well, that's really kind.
Better.
Thank you. That's very sweet. So are you, by the way.
Oh
my God.
Thanks. But first of all, before we get started, Tea with Jules, I have to ask you, are you a tea drinker?
I am a massive tea drinker. I grew up on a farm in country Victoria, and family tradition was Dad gets up every morning, warms the pot and makes tea, and it sits there and obviously whatever the word is. Brews. Yeah. And then we all come together as a family and have breakfast and have a cup of tea. And that's
nice.
Yeah, that's sort of still, whenever we're all home, that's the tradition.
Well, enjoy the tea while we have a chat. We know you from The Biggest Loser. You were on The Biggest Loser 10 years ago, and you've gone on to do amazing things. You're hosting, and you're an international model. You've walked on the catwalks in New York, and now currently the host of The Biggest Loser Transformed.
I am indeed.
It's so great.
Yeah.
And all of this I want to get into, but can you take me back a little bit before we kind of knew you?
Yes.
You say you grew up in the country.
I did.
And how did you get to the point where you decided that this was time to change your life?
So I grew up on a small farm in country Victoria, and I obviously had always been quite a bigger person, like a taller person, but I was bigger than all my friends, and my weight, I kind of started piling on weight when I was, early teens, and throughout school as well. I was kind of like the chubby girl, and it was always something. I was really down on myself, and I was really struggling with self-acceptance, with, low self-esteem, really just not a happy person, and really just blamed all of that on my size. In my head, my thought was, if I was skinny, all of that would disappear and life would be perfect. And went on a trip with some girlfriends to Thailand. And I was too embarrassed to get into a swimsuit on this trip, and they were all going off trekking up in the mountains, and I was too scared because I was too unfit in my mind and just too embarrassed to even attempt to go on this trek. And it was coming back from that trip that I was like, what am I, like, something needs to change. I'm putting my life on hold because of my size, because of my health. Like, what am I doing? And I was obsessed with watching the American series of The Biggest Loser, like obsessed. I was living in a share house in Melbourne, in Richmond, with a bunch of girlfriends at the time. And I remember the ad popped up, Australian contestants, like they're accepting applications. And I said to the girls, my mates, I'm going to apply. And they said, Fee, don't be silly. You're not big enough. Don't be silly, as friends do. Mm-hmm. But I went home for a weekend and I downloaded all the application forms, and it was like 12 pages long. And at that point in time, when I'm at uni, just there to have fun, pretty much, as you do. I was like, 12 pages?
Yeah, nah.
And so ended up filling it in and then sending it off, and never ever imagining that I would get through the process. Like, it was kind of, I did it sort of not as a joke, but as like you never imagine that it will actually happen. It's kind of, you do it, you send it off, never think of it again. But then I obviously got through, and that's where the journey began.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm interested to know, when you said you felt like, you were chubby and you all of that was going on for you growing up, was that more self-talk or was that from other people?
Majority of it was self-talk. Like, it was, I guess there was a lot of, I think what a lot of girls do, you compare yourself to others. And, my sister is, bless her, I love her to death. She's like a tiny little person that is like a little size 6 to 8, has always been. Mm-hmm. And I am the complete opposite to her. But growing up, I idolized her, and, I dreamed of being like that. Mm. And as well, like, all my friends I was just a different shape, different size to all my friends, and, and genetically prone to being larger and being able to gain weight quite easily. I guess for me, the interesting thing that I learned from my experience on The Biggest Loser was coming through the other side of the show. Like I lost the weight. I went into the show a really sad, unhappy, overweight girl, and I came out and I was skinny for the first time in my life, and everyone was like, you look so amazing. But I wasn't happy at all. I hadn't dealt with any of the reasons why I was the way that I was in the first place. And so obviously, most people know, I regained the weight quite quickly post the show. And I got to a point where, you know, and I was just in such a miserable place. Like it was horrible. I got to a point where I was like, something's got to change. I'm so unhappy, and life shouldn't be about being this unhappy. Oh, it makes me emotional. Sorry.
No, I'm feeling for you. Honestly,
I told you I was going to be very emotional. It was just a really bad place, and no one should ever feel like that. And I know there's so many women out there that are so hard on themselves and are so sad. And life shouldn't be like that. So I made a decision. I made a pact with myself that I'm going to take the pressure off myself. I'm going to take a step back and stop caring, stop putting pressure on myself from the exterior. I'm going to find out in life what are the things that make me truly happy, and started focusing on them. And things that made me happy were, you know, spending time with my family, traveling, looking after myself, like investing time, taking time out of my day to, in the beginning, I took the focus off exercise. It was more about doing things like just going for a walk and getting back to nature. Like I grew up in the country, like I love getting out there in nature. I love the ocean. So just going on walks, and always on every walk I took, I would take 5 minutes to stop and sit down. And a thing I do, I practice positive affirmations, where I just give myself a pat on the back for everything that I'd achieved in life, and be very grateful, like be thankful for everything that I had, that I was well and I was healthy, and, you know, tell myself that I was strong and I was incredible. The world, I could achieve anything. For me, it's something I still practice pretty much every day, because it just grounds me and takes me to a place where it sets me up for a really good day.
Well, I think when you practice gratitude, it's almost impossible to have negativity in your brain.
Exactly.
And then once you start practicing and you start thinking of all the things that are great that you have, it's almost endless. You almost can't stop thinking about how many great things are happening.
That gratitude, that is like the key, I think, to finding peace and happiness within yourself.
Even more so for you on a public level, when you go on a national television show and all of us know who you are, and then all of a sudden the focus and everything that you're known for is now that thing that you have been struggling with your whole life.
Yeah. And that was what I was questioning myself. I was like, why did you ever go on the show that the one point that is like the thing you struggled with, the most vulnerable point, I think, for any woman, and you've just put it out there. And in my head at that point, I was like, this is all anyone's ever going to remember me by. I'm going to be judged on this every single day. And there was a point where I was being judged every single day. And I got to a point where I didn't want to leave the house. I got to a point where I was trying to jog at night time. I was living in Manly, because I was too scared to go to the gym because of the judgment.
Are people brutal?
Yeah, I found that guys in particular were quite brutal. Really? And I was young as well. Like I was young. I was 22, 23 at the time, and
still young, still learning about yourself.
Still learning, and I was already like quite a broken person, I think, beforehand. Like I was so hard on myself that letting anyone else be really hard on me, I just took its toll and like wore me down and beat me down.
I can't believe people are so mean. It's like when you're on TV or you're a personality, you're a non-person.
Yeah.
It's like
they believe that. I think as well with reality TV these days, it's like people have seen you be vulnerable, be real, be yourself. And I think Biggest Loser, when I was a contestant, was one of the first ever, like, beginnings of the reality TV thing, and so it was a new concept, and so people felt that they knew me, like, even though they didn't. And so, you know, I came out of the show and people would be coming up to me in the beginning quite positively, but I was still like, I never felt comfortable, like, being recognised, people coming up to me, people watching me, whispering about me, pointing, like, I just couldn't cope. And then, of course, when I started regaining the weight, like, it just my head space just could not cope at all. But on the flip side, I'm all of that, which all sounds so terrible, I think now, you know, if I'd never struggled with my weight, if I've never been tall and curvy, I would never have lived the life that I've lived, which I'm so blessed and so thankful for. Like, it's funny how that thing that's always been what I originally thought was like the bane of my existence is now, I celebrate it.
When there's so much negativity and you're reading stuff and people are saying things like that, how did you combat that? What were the things? Because I know a lot of people deal with that stuff, people who aren't celebrities, kids in school, bullying, you know, it's such a big thing right now. What is your advice?
Definitely blocking it is key. You've got to get
not reading it.
You're not reading it, removing yourself from it, just focusing inwards and being like, okay, the only people that matter in my life are the ones that I love, the ones that love me, the ones that love me unconditionally. They don't care what size I am, what I look like. Surround yourself with those people because they'll always boost you up and make you feel good. And anyone else, you just block out of your world. And I think as well, for me personally, to fight the anxiety and the depression that I have suffered, like, staying active releases endorphins, which makes me feel good. So as funny as it is, like, that I train like 6 days a week. I have to stay active, because if I don't, the negativity can come back in. And my way of fighting it is to stay active. I mean, some days I might not, like, train, like, go crazy. I might just go for a walk, but I have to do something, and it just makes me feel really good. And it's that moment, the moment when you've finished, that I was talking to, actually after training, so I was talking to a lady, and we're talking about how, you know, during training, it's like sometimes it's like, well, this is really hard. I don't know if I'm going to get to the end. But that 10 minutes after you've trained and you've accomplished it, that amazing feeling, that's what I harness. I think as well, like, with the negativity, if you shut yourself away and you let those negative voices take hold, it's the best way to fight it. And some people get to a point where, you know, they don't even want to get out of bed. And the best way to fight it is just to get up, put on your runners, go somewhere and just walk it off and just get out there, get some fresh air. 2 very good keys, gratitude and exercise.
Yeah. At what point did it all kind of come together, I suppose, and, you know, you started to kind of change your mindset, and then, you know, you started modelling, and then you get hosting gigs, and things start to kind of turn around a bit.
So when I went through that process of figuring out what made me happy, it was as well with career-wise, I was at a place where I didn't know really what I was doing. I'd done a bit of TV production, I'd done a little bit of styling, I'd done, like, I worked as a nanny, I'd worked in a bar, I'd done all this stuff, but nothing really that, like, jumped out at me. And in my head I was like, you know, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? And when I left school, I wanted to be a makeup artist. And funnily enough, Mum and Dad didn't really want me to go down that path. They wanted me to go to university. So when I was going through this process, I was like, you know what? I'm going to enroll in a course. And I studied makeup for a year. I worked in a bar and studied at night. And it made me so incredibly happy to be doing what I'd always wanted to do. And I've never slept so well in my life. Like, I felt in myself that I was on the path to being where I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And so that was quite like a turning point in terms of, like, helping with feeling good about myself. When I was a makeup artist, I kind of fell into modelling through that, because I was working with photographers and obviously doing makeup for shoots, and doing test shoots, and my mate was like, oh, I want to shoot you. And I was like, I'm not a model, don't be ridiculous. Like, modelling was not on the agenda ever.
Have you seen your own face? Like, that's a model.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. It's just not who I ever, like, it's not what I saw myself as. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I will, as long as you use me as a makeup artist for the next, like, 3 shoots. Like, it was like a bit of
contra.
Yeah. And so I kind of did a shoot for him, and then I got approached by an agency who I signed with. And funnily enough, she said to me in our first meeting, she said, I will have you modelling full-time within a year, and then I want to look at you getting into like presenting. And I said to her at that point, I was like, no, I'm never presenting. No. Like, I can't learn scripts, and I can't, I'm never going to do that. No. But okay, if you want to try and get me into modelling. But she had me modelling full-time within 8 months, which
wow.
to her credit was amazing. And I was very lucky. I modelled pretty much for every plus-size brand in Australia I've modelled for at some point, and mm-hmm. had quite an incredible career for a couple of years, and then headed off overseas. And still, like, modelling was just, I mean, it just led to an amazing lifestyle. I got to travel, I got to visit places I'd never been and meet amazing people. And in my head, I was like, I'm kind of like a makeup artist. I'm sort of in the same, like,
except
area.
Someone else is doing my makeup.
Except someone else is doing my makeup. But I always had really great chats with the makeup artists about what they were doing and mm-hmm. stuff. Yeah, and then when the call came to be the host of Loser, I was like, wow.
That's got to be a pinch yourself moment.
It was. Do you know, and the thing is, before I was a contestant on Biggest Loser, I had the mentality of I can't. And throughout the series, I used to get a smack every time I said the words I can't, because it was my initial response to anything that was put in front of me was I can't. And this is one of the biggest things that I think I took away from the show was, by the end of the show, because you're faced with pushing yourself every day and the different challenges, you start realizing that, if I give 110%, I can actually like win stuff, and I can achieve stuff, and you can start kind of backing yourself and believing in yourself that way. And so when the call came through, the voice, I was actually back in Sydney for a shoot, and the voice inside my head said to me, no way, I can't do that. And then I sat on the plane and I was like, what are you talking about? As long as you go in there and you give 110%, mm-hmm. that's all that matters. If you get it, awesome. If you don't, you've given it a shot. And that had kind of been the mentality I've had with like moving to London to model, then moving to New York to model. It's like, look, you're going to go over there, you may not get any work, but go give it a shot, because if you do give it your best, mm-hmm. you never know what will happen. I think as well, in my head, I was like, presenting's not that different from modelling. It's kind of, you're in a room full of people you don't know, you're the focus, you're on camera. I just have to learn to talk. So
you can do that.
That was the way I kind of sold it to myself. Mm-hmm. Welcome to Middlehead on beautiful Sydney Harbour. This is the stunning backdrop for your first ever team challenge.
The show is amazing. I mean, it really does transform. That's what the Biggest Loser is called this season, transform. It's not just the weight loss. It's the holistic. It's
the whole overall like change. It's about, we've got a lot more of a focus on the nutrition side of things, which I think the general public has been asking for a long time, because, you can see people sweating it out in the gym and they're like, well, what are they doing to fuel their bodies? And then now the focus obviously at Finale is we're taking away the focus on just about the numbers on the scales. It's about the overall transformation. Mm-hmm. So people are going home and they're getting fit, they're getting strong, they're getting, they're getting happy and healthy, which is, I think, what we've needed and what everyone is going to relate to. And as well, there's so much more focus now on mindset and changing. For me, being the host, that's like the biggest joy for me being a host is at the beginning, all the contestants get up there in front of me and it takes me back to that day that I stepped on the scales and the girl that I was that was just such a broken girl. You just wanted to give her a hug. Mm-hmm. And these guys, they're at that point and it's, I always say to them, like, you've taken the right steps, like it's all going to change. So incredible. You know, they stand there at the beginning, like shoulders hunched, just so down on themselves and so negative. And then as the weeks go on, they end up just standing proudly, standing tall. The way they talk about themselves changes, the way they talk, the way they hold themselves. And it's like it's working, and they've had that moment, and they're transforming.
This is a good kind of rounded season because it's not only dealing with the numbers and the scales, it's also dealing with that part of the whole process that you struggled with is the mindset, because one without the other, everything kind of falls over.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really work. I mean, anyone can go out there and train really hard and get on a crazy diet and lose weight. But if there is negative voice, if there is negativity towards yourself throughout that process, you evidently going to fall off the wagon, because to have a true, I believe, a truly successful weight loss journey, to coming through the other side, to being healthy and happy, you have to change your mindset. Like, it is the first thing. You have to learn to love who you are. You have to learn to respect your body, self-acceptance. And once you get to that point, you realize that I'm worthy of taking care of. I'm worthy in getting out there and moving my body. I'm worthy of like nourishing my body, trying to get my body strong and healthy and well. And, taking an hour. This is something that everyone always says to me, I feel, especially parents, I feel guilty taking an hour out of my day because I've got kids and I don't want to, not be there for them. And I don't have kids, so it's tricky for me to have like a comeback at them. But I believe that if you take an hour out of your day and invest in yourself, be it training, yoga, whatever it is, meditation, you are going to feel so much better. And if you do that for a couple of weeks, or even just a week, the way you feel at the end of that week in comparison to the last week, you will feel so much better in yourself. You'll be healthier, happier, just a better parent. And then you're giving that as a gift to the people you love around you. Like, you're actually giving them a better version of you. My sister, for example, she has three little kids under the age of 5. And she was like, she'd gained a bit of weight after she got pregnant. And she said to me, I'm really struggling. The only time I can train is at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And in the dark, she was in country Victoria. And I was like, don't know what to say, but you should probably do it. And she started doing it. She'd get up in the dark, in the rain, and go and exercise for an hour. And she said to me afterwards, she thought that she'd end up feeling more tired from like getting up that. She said, I feel I've got so much more energy. I'm not as snappy at the kids. I'm like a bit more sparky with the husband. I'm like, I don't want to know. But she just felt so much better from taking that time to invest in herself. Even though at the beginning it can be difficult, but over time it just becomes like what you do, and you just feel great from it.
We're so bad at that, aren't we? We're so bad at giving to ourselves and being kind to ourselves. We're the last person on the list.
Exactly. And I think everyone needs to take a step back and realise that family and friends and everyone is so important, but we have to believe that we are number one. We are the most important people, because without our health, without any of these things, we don't have anything.
Do you feel like you've got it now? Do you feel like you're a whole person, you've come full circle, or is there still things that kind of make you vulnerable?
I mean, I'm human. I will always be vulnerable, always. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, and just try and be happy and healthy and positive.
And do you feel like you can deflect the
negativity
stuff?
Stuff? Yeah, I can.
Better than you could in the early days.
I mean, I used to open up a magazine and see photos of myself in a bikini and, break down in tears. And
I think most people would.
Well, now I'm like, oh God, how did they find me? I was like in the middle of the harbour. How did they find me? I don't read it, or I just don't care.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever read or heard about yourself?
This week, apparently I'm in love.
Great.
Oh, great.
So happy for you.
Yeah, thanks. It seems to be, and if a photograph gets taken of me and a guy, or not even a photograph with me and a guy, I'm in love, so I don't know.
Right, so they just kind of put you together with who they think
Well,
you might be in love with.
Yeah, so that's
weird.
I just kind of laugh it off. It's like, oh God.
You should just play a trick on everyone and just like one, a guy a day. Just
Yeah, I
be
know.
like-
How funny would that be?
What about here and beyond for you, Fiona? What can we see for you?
You know what? I just take one day at a time. You know, life is a roller coaster. I have a few things that I can't really speak about now coming up in the near future, which are quite exciting. I'm really, really excited, but I can't say anything, as always.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do.
Thank you.
It's honestly been such a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here.
No,
Sorry, I
it's-
cried over my tea.
it's good. Like you are the every person. I really feel like
Thank
you
you.
speak for women, especially.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough people out there that speak for women, and I've been where a lot of women are, and if I can ever do or say anything that will help someone feel better around themselves, that's my mission. In every interview I do, in everything I do, in every post I do on social media, I'm like, if I can try and help someone feel better about themselves, that's my goal.
Well, I believe that will come back to you.
Thank you.
And it's very brave what you're doing. It's vulnerable and it's brave, and we are cheering you on all
Thank
the
you.
way.
That's
so
very kind.
thank you for being you
Thanks.
and being beautiful and awesome.
Thank you.